Welcome to the Life of Phys Podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Martin. On this episode, I have Shawn Bruce. Shawn is a photographer and videographer based in Brooklyn, New York. Shawn's aim is to explore how courage defines individuals and binds groups together, how these groups drive accountability and spark innovation, and how these skill sets reach beyond their own practice and impact the world around them. Shawn is an incredible skate photographer, and you should check his work out. Links in the description below. Now let's hear a word from our podcast partner and get to the show. The Life of Phys Podcast is lit by HoboLight. HoboLight is on a mission to empower creators to elevate their creativity with lighting kits made to last and built to inspire. These lights are bold, beautiful, and powerful because HoboLight believes that your lights deserve to be seen. To learn more, follow them on Instagram at HoboLite.
Yeah, so I'm Shawn. I'm a photographer and occasional cinematographer based in Brooklyn, New York. A lot of my work ends up being in like skateboarding spaces, or working with artists or craftspeople. Just always interested in people who kind of use resources to make a way in life. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and always kind of grew up as like an artsy kid. I remember my grandma every Christmas, every birthday, there was like a new art kit that she would just push across the table. She'd be like, here's more crayons, here's more markers, here's a paint set. I remember her trying to get me into calligraphy at one point. And then she and I were just like avid writers where she became a pen pal for me, and I would write back and forth to her all the way up until she passed away just a couple of years ago. So a few letters here and there as often as we could make it happen. So yeah, so I mean, art was always something that kind of stood out to me and always made sense. And when I went to school, I was pretty much a D student through all of school. But then in art class, I was like A all day. Like, it didn't matter what it was. I could figure out how to make it work. It was like clay class. We did stained glass at one point, and I loved that. Any kind of drawing, painting, it was all like, it was just the idea of creating something was exciting to me. And yeah, I kind of got introduced to photography at a pretty young age. My dad constantly has a camera with him, and it's never like you kind of see like how photography now is all about like creating these artsy moments and stuff like that. And for my dad, it was just like, this is something neat happening and I want a photograph of it. So like, if you go through my dad's shoeboxes of photos, which there are dozens and dozens, there's like photographs of beautiful sunsets that are, you wouldn't post it to Instagram and expect to get 1,000 likes, but you're like, oh, that's neat. Like, I'm glad you captured that. And then there's, the shoebox got photos of my grandfather with his cars and my grandmother making dinner and of course, photos of my brother and I as we were growing up. And I think like that kind of sparked it for me, where I could see like, oh, here's a way to look at photography that's not like it has to be so artistic and picked apart and it has to be perfect. Like, you can have these moments where you're just kind of like celebrating that life exists.
It's super important to remember to capture moments. So many creatives like myself, like I'll go out and I'll do a walk or whatever through town and I'll capture one photo. It's because I wanted it to be perfect.
Yeah.
But instead I missed 30, 40, 50 potential amazing captures of a sliver of time that's never going to happen again. So I'm trying to get back to that myself, getting back to being open-minded when I'm out shooting.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like going to really force me to open my mind creatively and really spark that kind of interest again.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things is like, we'll travel back home to see our family. And my little brother has 2 daughters and now a newborn son. And I'll bring my camera with me, and I'll just bring like a camera and a lens, and I'll just photograph what life looks like for the day that we're there or whatever. And we did that last Christmas, I guess. And it was just an amazing experience to just like photograph my nieces as they've grown up. And I got like a photo of one of my nieces like messing with her hair in the mirror, and then like one of my other nieces drawing or like playing with the dog. And it's like, it's like all these little moments that like you'd probably get on your phone or you'd probably like be like, oh, hold still, let me get a photo. But it was kind of neat to go into it and photograph my family from like a journalistic perspective where I'm making these photographs of like my niece on the steps and like the cat's running behind her. And I sent them all to my brother and he's like, thanks a lot. Now I have to buy a bunch of new frames for the house, which I loved. Like, that's amazing.
That's also an important moment. I mean, when you print them, it becomes real. It becomes things in your hand. It's tactile, right? It's paper. It's such a cool experience. And I didn't realize that. I'm a pretty fresh photographer. I mean, it's 2024. I figured 2019, right as COVID was coming in, is when I considered myself someone who took it from an occasional shooter to a full-time hobby.
Yeah.
That's when it became the thing that drove my creativity. That's when it became my therapy. And until recently, I didn't realize how important it was to print work. So,
oh man,
I'm trying to do that right now. I'm trying to create a folder, 36 photos. They get sent for print. So it's like a roll of film, right?
Oh, that's neat.
So,
that's
but it's
neat idea.
36 photos that I like.
Yeah.
That I like. So edits, whatever it is, they go in a folder. End of the month, I'm going to start sending them for print. And then I'll just have, boom, 36 prints or images. And I'll save that file so it can be printed bigger if someone likes it. You know how? But I have tactile because I want to start doing farmer markets and art galleries and these things where I can just have photo books and be like, yeah, which one do you like? No problem. Yeah. We can have you taken care of.
Recently, I started, like, I'll go out and I've been doing a lot of street portraits of people. So I'll just meet random people on the street and ask for a portrait of them. And part of that process, I've been photographing them and then coming home, editing the photos. And I'll usually like send them a digital copy. But I've also been printing a lot of them, especially the ones that are like really meaningful, that they really stand out to me. And then I've got this little photo book, like a 4x6 photo book that I just stuff in my bag. And I've been carrying that around. And if I run into them again, I'm like, oh, here's an actual print of that photograph. And it's been really neat to see people's faces light up when I hand them like a physical photograph. And they're like, whoa.
Well, the world's got so fast with technology. So with social media, we can look at the skate industry. Because when I grew up skateboarding, I had to wait for the next month's magazine. You wait months months and months for a VHS. You're waiting to see these new tricks that, for me in the magazine, I can see what they're doing. But when that new video dropped and I could go slow motion frame by frame, how they place their feet, the way they kick themselves, like learning, I still call them 360 flips because that's what they are.
I do too.
So learning those flips, I saw in magazines how people place their feet.
Yeah.
But I never saw the scoopy motion, right? I never saw that motion. So you're sitting there trying to figure it out. It just didn't work. You watch it on, my favorite skate video of all times was Hocus Pocus. The Matt Hensley part in that was unreal. But watching a video where I could go frame by frame and learn was so important. And now, like, kids go out every single day and you could watch their accounts and they're uploading these banger clips.
Absolutely.
And you're like, did I just watch a video game?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's crazy how quick somebody can be discovered through social media.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time at some local skate spots, and it's fascinating to see even kids who are like 8, 9, 10 years old, and they're doing things that like I would have been so stoked to do as like a 18-year-old. I'd be like, wow, that was amazing. And these kids are like, a 360 flip is no problem. Like jumping off of 5 stairs, like a warm up. And I'm like, here I am 36 and I'm like, oh, my ankles hurt just watching that.
Well, look at like Tony Hawk. How long did it take him to land the 900?
Yeah. And then there's kids like
back to back 900s. Yeah. Like what? That's insane. But I love it. I
distinctly remember that moment of Tony Hawk in the X Games landing that. And I remember like sitting on the couch at my grandma's house being like, what? Like, what did I just witness?
Yeah, I was in my mom's living room. The only downfall I have to that whole thing with Tony Hawk doing the 900 at that point is that Colin McKay won the best trick contest and nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
And Tony Hawk got the trophy.
Yeah.
And they even joke about it. So I don't know if you've seen the Tony Hawk documentary, Until the Wheels Fall Off.
No, I haven't. It's on my list.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm a huge Colin fan, I grew up skating with Colin here in Vancouver. The guy is so talented. He is the reason so many street tricks are in vert now.
Yeah.
But he definitely won that one. But watching the 900 happen, watching him put his feet down and the pure shock he showed on his face was worth all of that.
Yeah, it was so neat.
All right, we get back to our story here. So easy to get sidetracked talking about skateboarding. There's just
absolutely
so much history. And I mean, we're from two different generations of skateboarders, right? So, I mean, for me, a banana board was what I started on.
Yeah.
So I found it in an alleyway in Vancouver when we were up visiting my grandma and my aunt. And I went home and I spent the rest of the summer here trying to make it down a hill on it.
That's wild.
And I remember making it to the bottom and I was so excited. And then that next Christmas, my mom bought me a Nash skateboard from Kmart. And it had this crazy cool, like, fox or wolf with a full-on cholo type outfit. And I loved it. It was like the coolest thing, to the point I had two of them at one time. And then finally my grandparents said I could go to the skate shop and buy a board. And it was over.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Mark Gonzalez face board. So whatever year, 86. So the very first Mark Gonzalez Vision Pro model.
That's amazing.
I have a reissue thanks to my friend Dan. He brought it over and gave it to me. And it's going to be in the office on the wall once that ever gets finished.
I was gonna say, if you ever come out to New York, you'll have to put it in your suitcase and see if we run into them out here. Yeah.
Oh man, I've been trying to. As far as legends in skateboarding, I'd love to hear Tony Alva's story. I would love to hear Tony Hawk's story, the Whole Bones Brigade. So I've already done Steve Caballero. So I'd love to have the Whole Bones Brigade on, but Natus Copus and Mark Gonzalez.
Yeah.
And well, Jason Lee, if he'd ever answer his email, Jason, listen, you better be listening. He's not listening. But those, like, there's so many people that have this amazing ability to create art on the skateboard. Like, if you look back and I guess it would be the late 80s when Santa Cruz was putting out Wheels of Fire and Streets of Fire. Like, I age myself. I'm almost 50. So, I mean, but watching Natus Copus leave his house and do a tail stall coming out of his front door on the ledge, right by his stairs. Like, what? You can skate right out your door?
Yeah.
And then goes down the street and does that. He hops on the hydrant, spins on the hydrant, pops
Amazing.
off. Yeah, big ollie airwalks off of the driveway banks. Like, just these things that got me so excited to ride a skateboard. This is going to be a lot of skateboard talk, I can tell already.
Yeah, I think my first skateboard memory is probably, I was like a little kid, and I had like one of those little play car garages or whatever for your Hot Wheels. And I was playing with it in the middle of the hallway in our house at the time. And my older brother, he's 13 years older than me, and he grew up skating in the 80s. And he went and I think he was trying to do like an ollie or a kickflip over my little garage, but he missed it at one point. Like, he had done it a few times and went to do it again, and the wheel like crashed through the top of my garage. And I remember thinking, like, whoa, that is wild. Like the fact that he could do that in the house, I was like, that's crazy. But then he like smashed this stuff, and I was like, whoa, it's like blown away by this. And I remember like duct taping it closed and just being like, that was cool.
So I actually remember the very first moment that skateboarding became everything that I wanted. So I was just trying to figure out how to ollie, and I was at my grandparents' house, and they lived in Northeast Portland, and they had all the driveways were banked, and they had stairs in them in the middle. So you would drive up each side of it. And we're sitting there, and I see this person just pushing, and like when they're pushing, they're the most fluid person I've ever seen on a skateboard. boom, 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 down the street, rolls around up the driveways, and he's just cruising. Then he comes up to the super steep one and pops this beautifully clean ollie over these stairs.
Wow.
And rolls away. And that person was Danny Sargent, who is like a Portland legend, San Francisco legend. And right there, I watched that happen, and I said, I'm hooked.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not stopping. So this is where it is. I'm not super connected, unfortunately, to the industry now, but I still have so much respect for everybody who does it. I watch it. I love it. I clench every time I see someone slam because I remember how much it hurts.
Oh, yeah.
So, the fact that you're still capturing, you're still at the skate park, you're doing it, and you're doing it on a Leica.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating choice. Absolutely.
So what draws you to what you're doing in New York? Like, what draws you to the images you capture? I mean, you do skate, obviously, you skate photos, but you have so many like just lifestyle portraits of people. You have really cool landscape stuff, like cityscapes, like in the subway, in the front of the car with all the bridges and everything. Like, what's your motivation? What gets you out with your camera every day?
I think like the weird thing is like if I don't shoot photos, I am like depressed. Like I have to get out and make a photograph, and it doesn't have to be like this award-winning photograph every time. Like it's just like the process of literally creating something just like fuels me. So yeah, there was a couple of days like in the winter where we had like it was just extremely cold and I didn't go out at all, and I could just feel like the energy leaving me. So then like I have to figure out a project to do in the house. So it's like I'll be photographing watches or something. Like it just has to be creating something. And I think like growing up watching skateboarding and playing skateboard games and having a group of friends that were into skateboarding in St. Louis, coming to New York and seeing these places that are like larger than life, and you're seeing like skaters, pyramid ledges, and you're like, I saw this in a video, and here's this guy literally doing a nose grind or a nose slide and a shove it out, and you're like, whoa, like these guys are actually doing that, and I'm here photographing that. I think the pyramid ledges was the first place I visited, and I was just absolutely in shock that this place was real and existed, and I could just walk up there and be in the space that, all of these legends had been. And I think too, like one of the things that I enjoy about photographing skateboarding is not always photographing like the pros, but for photographing like the local kids and the local adults who are like, they're so stoked to land that nose slide, or they land a lip slide or a board slide, and they're like, oh man, like this is like top joy in their lives. And photographing them and handing them a picture of that moment, whether they ever go on to do anything else with it, like it just feels so good. You're like documenting this moment of like pure enjoyment for them.
Oh, I agree. Like there's nothing better than a pro does it nonstop. So that's their bread and butter. That's what they do for a job. So for them to land, whatever insane thing came to their mind, it's so different. They ride away like it's no big deal.
Yeah.
But you see someone who's fresh or someone who just skates for the love of skateboarding, and they do something, 360 flip down a 5 set. First time ever they land, and you see the face.
Yeah.
And they're so pumped on it. For people who haven't skateboarded, once you get to a point in skateboarding where you're a fluid pusher and you have your balance, there is no feeling in the world that will top riding a skateboard.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's the epitome of freedom. And
I get on it now, and I'll skate to the local store, and I'm just like cheesing the whole way.
Yep.
Like dripping sweat, but I'm like so happy just to be, dodging rocks and cracks in the ground.
Exactly. And then what made you choose the Leica system to shoot skateboarding on?
So, yeah, I guess the Leica story is kind of a long story. I mentioned before that I was really close with my grandmother. And then when my grandfather passed away, he had left some money behind. And I had been really getting into photography at that point. My grandma really saw this as like the next avenue of my creativity. And I think at the time I had like a Sony A7 or something like that, and I was photographing with it. And she was like, your grandfather passed away, and he was really excited to see you doing art and doing all these things. Because when he was growing up, like you just had to get a job, you had to like survive and, raise your family. And when he got out of the military, he went and worked like civil servant jobs. I think he worked in the city hall for a while doing paperwork and things like that. But his passion was always doing woodworking. So he had like a woodworking space in the house, and I used to go over there and watch him build stuff. And she was like, your grandfather never actually pursued his dream of being a woodworker. She's like, so like if we can pass this on to you and you can pursue it, like that would be amazing. So at the time, the Leica Q had just come out, and she pre-ordered the Leica Q for me in Chicago. And I was like absolutely shocked. Like, I grew up pretty well in poverty. It didn't have a chance. Like the idea of ever owning a Leica seemed impossible. Like when I got my Sony, I was like, I've spent so much money. Like this is ridiculous. Yeah. And then I remember I went up and I got the Leica the day after Christmas at Tamarind Camera in Chicago. And I remember like my friends came with me and my wife was there, and they were going to grab dinner, and I was running to Tamarind before they closed because we had just gotten off the train. And I like run over to get the camera, and I'm walking in Chicago, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then I used that for a while, and I really, really loved it. But then it's such a sentimental item that I don't use it often now. Like maybe if we're traveling and I'm going someplace to document family, I'll do something like that. But yeah, a number of years went by, and I had purchased a bunch of other cameras. I had a bunch of stuff laying around, a bunch of lenses from doing video work, and I decided I wanted to try something new. I had a Fuji X100T, and I loved it, but I was like, oh man, it feels like it's so close to being something that it's not. Like I didn't want the autofocus. I wanted to like manually focus and see where it was going to go. And my friend had just gotten a new Leica. I think he got the MD without the screen on the back. And he's like, oh, have you ever played with the M bodies before? And I was like, no, it was completely alien to me. So he let me play with it, and I was shocked. And I went home, and within a week, I installed all my equipment, and I bought a Leica M, and I was just so excited. Like I bought that, and then I was able to buy a 50 millimeter Summicron and a 35 millimeter Zeiss f2 lens, and like it's been my baby. And now I've had them probably like 7 years, 6, 7 years or something like that. And like, oh man, I absolutely love it. Like they're so compact to being able to carry them around. And now I even have, there's this lens company out of China, Astrori or something, and they sell a 10 millimeter lens that fits on the M body. So I got that now. And, this whole, like, the lens is so small that it looks like it's just a body cap. And when I'm photographing with that, it's so small and unintimidating that you get into the spaces and photograph things happening, and people don't even realize you're there. And I find like that's one of the biggest joys for me is like I made some photos the other day at a skate event, and I can just like hold the camera with one hand and like know that at 10 millimeters I'm going to be able to get it if I point it just in the right direction, and I can just like stick my hand into the action really quick and then pull it out before I get hit. And I get hit a lot. I've had quite a few bruises on my shins and ankles, and almost a couple. I've broken a couple lenses. I've had a couple close calls too, and yeah, it's sometimes it's sketchy shooting with the Leica, but it's built like a tank, and I've had to like fix the focus one time where it had gotten knocked around a little bit, but it's been a solid camera. I love it.
It's cool to see people using the Leica body in a way that not a lot of people would assume to use it, because you see people like professional skate photographers, they all have Leicas. It's all in their personal use, but everything they use is Sony, Canon,
Yeah.
DSLRs and R9s or R1s or whatever they use. I mean, Atiba Jefferson is a legend and he's Canon, but they all have Leicas, and that's their personal camera of choice. Beautiful brand, beautiful company. Leica, if you're listening, please. Hello.
Yeah.
Over
Here. Let us know. We'd like to chat.
Yeah, exactly. So what's a typical day with the camera like? Do you make a plan? Do you get up and go, I'm going here today? Or do you just wander?
Yeah, I guess some days are different than others. Lately, it's been incredibly hot. So it's been like nearly 100 degrees Fahrenheit here, which has been just disgusting. So lately I've been I usually wait until about 3 o'clock and then I'll start motioning out the door. And then, yeah, a lot of days I'll kind of like let the trains tell me where I'm going. So some days I'll get down to the train station and like the F train is 2 minutes away. So I'll be like, oh, I'll just hop on the F train. And then sometimes I'll get to another station and the A train will be there. So I'll just hop on that train. And I know like I've been in the city long enough now that I know how these things connect and where they'll lead me. So yeah, if I get down the street and the R train is available, then I'll just hop on the R and then switch to the D and then I'm in Chinatown or switch to the A and I'm over by Fulton Street and I'm photographing Wall Street or something like that. And then
I was just gonna say that'd be so cool. Like just there's so many variables and options in New York City.
Oh yeah.
It's high on my bucket list of places to be. It's probably number one.
It's amazing. Especially as somebody who appreciates skateboarding. Like the city is incredible.
Well, I mean, I figured there's a few things that drive me as far as photography goes. That's graffiti, street art, skateboarding, architecture. Like New York has it all.
Yeah.
So I'm, maybe one day I'm going to be there and I'll be able to go and shoot and hang out with all the people I know in New York now. And we'll see what happens.
It'd be so cool. Absolutely. Oh, now I lost my train of thought. Shoot.
Yeah, sorry, man. I just,
okay.
It's like I do this with everybody from New York because it's such a important place to me as a person.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I really don't, because I've never been there. And
I felt like that I think even as a kid, growing up in the Midwest, I always thought like the East Coast was where I belonged. And then, yeah, we moved out here a little over 3 years ago. And I remember the first night we woke up in New York and my wife and I both looked at each other and were like, yeah, this is home. Like, this is where we belong.
That's so sick, man.
I've had a love affair with this place ever since. I get on the train and you can see like the skyline going past and I'm just like, wow, like this is where I live. Like,
you're amping it up for me even more.
There's a bag company out of Australia, Hung Supply, and they do like bags kind of like situated for skateboarders. They're like extra padding, sling bags. They double, like you can pull the cord off of it and it becomes a camera strap. And yeah, and I discovered them and I was like, holy cow. And then the guy that's been running at Lincoln and I have just connected on just like this level of loving skateboarding and loving photography. And he and I talk like regularly now. And yeah, I'm going to be doing like a full video about the bag here pretty soon. And just kind of like showing it off because it's like connecting with these people who are also in the industry or industry adjacent. And they're doing these things that they're so passionate about. And then that like bleeds over to you. And you're like, so now I'm like, I've never been interested in like designing a bag, but I'm like, oh, this is neat. Oh, like, oh, this is cool. I can think about how like this will carry whatever gear I'm working with at that time.
Oh, I'm amped on that one. I've got the chrome.
Oh yeah, the chrome
Nico.
Ones. Yeah,
I love chrome stuff. I'm a long time fixed gear rider.
Yeah,
this right here, their buckle.
Yeah, I love their buckles. Yeah, it's very cool.
But I'm thinking like this light right here. So this is the Iris.
Holy cow, that is tiny.
And it comes with dome filter. It comes with has a little filter slot on the side. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
So you put your gels in it, so you can change colors. But something like this fits in my bag. This is my everyday.
That's incredible.
Next to the Ricoh, they're like...
Yeah, they're the same.
Right? So getting something like that into like your hands and getting your opinion on it and having you do a video in conjunction with me. And I'm trying to do it through me. So even if I have to send it to you, like I send my plethora of lights I have from them, I send them out to people all the time.
Yeah.
They've been used by other people more than they've been used by me. They're beat up now. Hobolight's been amazing. So Kiran, it's actually Karan. I mess her name up every single time. Karan she's a light in the industry that people need to get to know.
She's amazing.
Dude, the wisdom from her is
I met her
unreal.
Like actually in person. I had seen her like in passing here and there. And yeah, like everybody I had ever talked to about her was like, she's amazing. And then I met her a couple of weeks ago, I guess, at a Leica event. And I was like, wow, like you're as sweet and as approachable as I had heard. And she like really cares about photography in the industry. And she's like doing the work to put people into the platforms, especially the people who are like underrepresented. And that's amazing.
Yeah. I had 2 episodes out when they came on as a year partner.
Wow.
And they sent me an Avant. They sent me the creator kit. They sent me a pro creator kit.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, before the Iris was even out, it showed up at my door with an NDA. And I'm like, I don't even know what an NDA is, but how sick is this? And like the fact that they're willing, and I always ask her, I'm like, what is it that I'm doing? Like, how do I do more for you? Because you guys are throwing me stuff all the time. And I don't feel like I'm giving back.
Yeah.
So that's where the videos are coming in. I have a voice for it. I have the ability to speak. So I'm going to start doing 3 to 5 minute product videos, just talking about the product, and posting them on my YouTube and just kind of
maybe need to do a series of like street portraits, like using that as a little supplementary light in the street.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
Devin Allen did it in Baltimore.
Yeah.
With their micro. And man, like I'm still learning lighting. For me, lighting was just going to be studio light, right? Boom, in front of me, keep me lit. That was it.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, there's so many possibilities. There's so many options. So, if I ever make it to New York, I'll be traveling with my hobo lights or borrowing some from Karan when I get there. But I really want to see more people get them and do true, honest reviews on them because they are phenomenal. And I'm not saying that because I'm an ambassador for them. I'm saying that because the product is amazing.
Yeah.
It's all aluminum. The whole body is aluminum.
That's amazing.
Magnetic lens cap.
It'll actually survive getting hit by a skateboard.
It will. And and this little twist changes the field of view, the flood pattern.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then you can put, it's funny, I just found the box of all the accessories this morning when I was getting ready. But, this is like the creator kit. So it comes with this crazy cool dome so you can do weird things, 4 gels, another little diffuser, and it's all there. And it's good stuff, man.
That's amazing.
That's my hobo light ad for today. But no joke. Like I would love to be able to I want to do a lot more collaboration work. I want to bring a lot more people to the forefront. I want to do whatever I can to support other creatives. And I think the way you are here in New York and what you do, I think you could just adding a little bit of lighting to some of your stuff would just change it a little bit even more. You know what I mean? So let's we'll figure that out eventually. We'll get something happening.
Yeah, cool.
And we get sidetracked again. It's just like it's like the Ainsley's, right? Like once I feel like I connected with somebody and we're on that friendship level, it's just we just talk and whatever happens. And that's what this place is about. So all right, skateboarding, M system. Do you have any personal projects you're working on? Anything that you're really focused on trying to capture or give to people so they can have, a piece of you. So you capture an image, walking around trying to hand people stuff.
Yeah, I guess lately I've been trying to do more street portraits. But over the last year or so, I've been doing this little documentary project on a local tattoo studio. So I was doing a class through the International Center of Photography, and one of our prompts that we were supposed to be doing was on portraits, but like not in a typical fashion. Like you're not thinking about portraits as more of an abstract way of telling a story. So I started thinking about like, oh, it'd be really neat to tell like a story of somebody's family through like the tattoos they receive. So then that got me on the idea of like tattoo portraits, where you get like a portrait of your family member as a memorial or something like that. So I started pursuing that, and this guy Ron is just a phenomenal tattoo artist. He covers a wide range of different topics, but he does a lot of realism and he does portraits very, very well. So I just sent him a random email and I was like, "Hey, can we get coffee and talk about this?" And at the time, it wasn't a good time for him, but shortly, I guess maybe like 6 months had gone by or so, and he opened a tattoo studio literally 2 blocks from my house. It was like completely unknown. I just happened to be walking to get groceries one day, and he's like standing outside, and I'm like, "What? Like you're Ron?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're Shawn." And then like, so yeah, I've been going in and documenting the tattoo shop as it started, as it's been going, as they've been bringing on new artists and new events and things like that. And one of the things that I've really loved lately is photographing Ron, who's been doing tattooing for like, 15 years. But then also there's another tattoo artist, Avi, who's an apprentice right now. And he's like literally just starting his creative career as a tattoo artist, and going in and documenting like what it's like from the perspective of somebody who's done this for a decade or more versus somebody who's like been doing this for a month, 6 months, a year now. Like, and getting to photograph them as a community and as like this little tattoo family. And nowadays I just go up and I just camp out on the couch and just like listen to them BS back and forth. And that's been a really rewarding process. And then in that process, I've also gone through and had Avi tattoo me as an apprentice, which feels like full circle now, where like I've seen him tattoo other people. I've documented him giving his first tattoo. And now like here I have like a tattoo by him. And it feels so special because it's like, as an apprentice, it might not be the best work you'll ever produce, but it's like there's the story behind it. Like I think a lot of people look at imperfections in art and they're like, "Oh, that's so bad. Like I can't believe I messed that up." And I look at it like, "Wow, a human made this." And there's like something's messed up about it, but like that's the beauty of it.
Well, the thing is too, is like, we're not perfect.
Yeah,
Some of the most famous photographs in the world are out of focus,
absolutely.
but it's beautiful.
Or like the number of photographs that I take that are an accident, but just a happy accident, or I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, wow."
That story is amazing. So capturing, I mean, you have somebody who's established, you have someone new, and you've seen their progress. That's such a cool project.
It's amazing. It's
I have a
been
thing
very
for
rewarding.
hands, like old hands. There's something about them because like I like old stuff, and I always say old and discarded, and I don't mean that by the people, but like barns and cars, even tractors left in fields to rot. I found this one street where there's a mailbox just encompassed in old blackberry bushes.
Oh, wow.
But it's so hard to capture because there's no light. So I'm always trying to capture it every time I go there. Haven't got one I like yet, but it draws me in every time because I want to know the story.
Yeah.
And it's that same with hands. Hands tell so much.
Oh, they really do.
So I think like I just picture like you're in the tattoo shop getting hands with the tattoo gun doing their work, just the hand.
Yeah.
And you have the established guy's hand, you have, the apprentice hand, and new versus, it's not new versus old, but new and old in the same place, and just capturing those small moments.
It's been really neat too, because Ron is very much like helping these people in their own careers, where like as somebody who's been established, he does it in a way that's like there's no arrogance involved. He's just like, "This is how I do it. This is what works. Here's why I do it. And this is why it might be worth you doing it." And he has just such a a beautiful demeanor when he's working with his clients, but also the people in the shop. And it's been really neat to see that and to like think about how that also fits into my own worldview of photography and passing on knowledge to people in the photo world.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. I love the way you just worded that. Do you have any inspirations in photography? Like any people that their work just speaks to you on another level?
Oh my God, endlessly. Like, I think like, I've been into a lot of skate photographers lately and just buying a bunch of books. I think it's just stumbling across the people. Like I've gotten into like seeing people's work that's more abstract. And I also have stumbled on a lot of profiles on Instagram that'll have like 1,000 followers. And I'm like, their work is so mind-bogglingly beautiful. And I'm like, holy cow, how? But they're just making the work because they want to make it. And they're not pursuing, 1,000 hashtags trying to find, tagging every single brand in the photo. They're just like, here's this beautiful moment that happened in Tokyo. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I think the longer I've been doing photography, the more inspired I get by like just like anybody and everybody. Because you can see some things from like people who just started out doing photography, and you can see like that spark where they like learned about a certain aspect. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't thought about that in a while. Or like they'll photograph a subject and I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about doing that. That's interesting. And I find that like keeping this like childlike wonder of photography has been very helpful for me because I can look at anything and find something where I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, how fascinating. Like,
as someone who has an artistic eye, is the ability to capture and see beauty in the broken or beauty in the things that others don't see. I have a couple projects on the go. I'm doing my project for a photo book, which is scary in its own right. But I'm working on getting a project established where I get, being an Indigenous man, I really care about my culture and my communities. I'm looking to get cameras in the hands of the youth to capture.
Oh, that's amazing.
So they'll get a camera for 30 days. They send it back to me. I create a contact sheet. I get a group of people that have been on the show. We don't critique, but we mentor the students that are really excited about shooting photos.
Yeah.
And the one who stands out the most from each community, or the two, we find in that group of people, we find them a secondhand camera and lens, and we send it to them. And the person who sends it to them becomes their mentor for the year.
Yeah.
So help establish these things. So that's a good couple years. That's going to be a couple years in the works because I want to make it a not-for-profit to make it work. But man, there's just so many things and so many people that can help establish these things.
That's interesting. Like thinking about, we talked about skateboarding and like people getting stoked on skateboarding, but I think it's like similar with photography. You get that first photo where you like realize that a 51.8 can make a blurry background and you're like, whoa, like I'm about to make every photo have no background. Like, and just seeing like somebody that excited about it. I love that. I love it so much.
I found so much relief in my traumas of my life with a camera.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I have really dark days and there's nothing I can do about it. It has to do with the concussions. And, I can grab my camera and I can go wander the same block up and down and around. And by the end of it, I'm at least functioning to a point where I'm not worried about some imaginary thing that's not there. It's not happening.
Oh, yeah.
My brain told me one thing, but in reality, it's different. So, just also giving that experience to other people, allowing them to see why it means so much and how amazing, whether it's drawing or writing or skateboarding or snowboarding or, building motorcycles, building cars, whatever it is that is your craft and your artistic outlet. It's so important to the mental health connection.
Oh, yeah. Thinking about mental health, Yeah, a couple of years ago, I got diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. And like growing up, I had always felt like something was going on. And I remember telling my mom a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, I got diagnosed with OCD. And she was like, we always thought something was up. And I remember just being like I remember during 2020, things just felt so off. Like I was just anxious all the time. And then like started having like compulsions associated with OCD and just being like overwhelmed all the time. And then I got the diagnosis and I was like, oh, I'm not crazy. Like all this stuff just makes sense. Like all this, like this is normal for like somebody with OCD. And like once I realized that, I was like, the world opened up and like I was like, wow, this is so nice. And I remember I had a therapist at the time and she was like, yeah, your brain is just like overly active. Like it's always thinking about the worst thing that could possibly happen and then trying to find solutions. And she's like, you don't need to worry about that stuff. She's like, you just need to like fill your time with something else, I guess. And I was like, oh, huh. So then I started doing like daily photo walks. And like, I think we talked about it before where it's like, if I don't go on a walk, I'm feeling like, oh, like if I don't make a photograph, I'm feeling like overwhelmed. And it comes down to a part of that. Like if I go out for that walk, like I could just feel like the stress melt away. I get in the zone and I'm not thinking about bills or whether or not I've made enough money this month or whether or not the last photograph worked. I'm just like in the zone making something and it feels like a very therapeutic experience for me.
I never thought of it or put it in words that photography is my therapy until I was a guest on Fred Ranger's podcast.
Mm.
And we were talking and I just like clicked and I'm like, man, you know what? Photography is my therapy.
Yeah.
And like, that's what he titled my episode. And I looked at it and I was like, that's so true. I could be stressed out from work. I'm always stressed out about money. I'm always stressed out about bills. I have 6 children total. So for me, like I'm always worried about my kids.
Yeah.
Like my biggest fear in life is either losing my children or me dying and not being here for my children. Those are like in my brain every day. And they're crippling. They are. They keep me in a state where if I don't grab my camera, not even that I have to take a photo every day, but I have to have my camera with me every day. It's my it's like a security blanket. It's the weirdest thing.
Funny.
It's like Linus in the Peanuts cartoons,
I was just gonna say Linus,
with his blanket.
Yes.
I'm going to start shooting skateboarding here in Vancouver.
Do it. Oh my God. I'm so excited.
I'm thinking once I get comfortable doing it, get to know some of the guys a bit better, we should do some kind of project together where we're both coasts.
Oh, that
West
would be
Coast,
so
East
dope.
Coast, and then just figure out, do a book, do an online gallery, do whatever we can, just like showing these photos of how different, because the guys on the West Coast dress so different than the guys on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Their style is so different, but it's so the same because they're still doing what they love.
I know last year, I guess the beginning of this year. So last year I had shot a bunch of skate photos in New York and I decided to put it all together into a zine. And that was a really exciting experience to like print my first zine. And it came out. I made 50 copies and they sold out in a couple weeks. And I was
so
like,
cool.
I was blown away. I was like, 50 people want this thing? Like, I thought I was like going to print 50 and I would be like giving them away. Like, please just take this. And to like sell them out, it was incredible.
Where did you do it through?
Through this website, Mix'em.
Okay.
It was incredible.
Nice.
They gave me an option, like I could get like a test print or whatever. So I like ordered a test print. I got to see like how the paper felt, experience it all like that. And then I decided to go forward and like 50 of them was like a reasonable price. And I didn't have to sell it for like $50. Like I think I sold them all for like 15 a piece and I was able to break even, which felt, I wasn't trying to become a millionaire off of photography. It's just like, it was so exciting to like meet people in the street and be like, oh, this is my zine. And they'd be like, I have to have this. And I was just shocked every time. Like, you have to have this? What? Wow.
It's such a cool experience. That's what I'm looking forward to with the book. And I'm going, like, when I'm doing it, I'm going to go full bore. Like,
Yeah.
I want an oversized book, hardcover, amazing paper, because it's an ode to what I love about photography. Is pretty much what it is. It's not, and honestly, if I don't sell any ever, I don't care.
Yeah.
I did it for me. And it's going to sit next to my Grant Britton books and my Fred Herzog books, who's my all-time idol. I love his work.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, my Elliot Erwitt books. Like, I have so many photo books, but I wanted to look at it and be going down and have a Tyson Martin book right there. And that's just something that, you know, I'll make enough copies for sure that all of my kids can have one. And just learning the process and trying to get my writing brain back and being able to articulate what I saw in a photo and why I captured it. Which with concussion issues, that's tough to do.
Absolutely.
So even talking on this and being able to continuously go and go and go is some days is really tough.
Yeah.
And through this, it's helped me really do a lot of different things that I never thought possible. But yes,
amazing.
I would love to collaborate on a West Coast, East Coast skate, you know, and then maybe we meet in the middle one day and we shoot a Midwest.
Oh, you know? I would love that.
Right. So you have 3 different perspectives of a passion that people have.
To meet up in Chicago, photograph the New Balance team in Chicago or something.
Heck yeah. Yeah, man, it's like a family, dude. Like, honestly, like, I feel like I've known you forever now. We just, but you see what I mean? It's not an interview. We have a conversation about the life of it and what draws us in and what holds our interest in, you know, skateboarding and photography and capturing these moments that are here 1 second, gone the next.
Oh yeah. I feel like sometimes I show up to events and I'm like, I went to an event the other day and there was like 2 other photographers. And I think like sometimes photographers get kind of like territorial, like, oh, I'm here, I'm documenting this. But I'm over here, like, the more the merrier. I'm like, oh, you also want to tell the story of skateboarding from your perspective? Like, please do. Like, here's some tips on how to get closer to these athletes or something like that. And I found myself like photographing. I love to photograph photographers, and especially photographers as they're working. I follow, there's a page on Instagram that I'm obsessed with, and it's like photographers photographed or something like that. And I love just going on there and seeing like these photographers at work doing their thing. And like, I follow around one of my friends, Jimmy Park in Brooklyn. And we'll go out and do a photo shoot and I'll just follow him with my camera and just like document the way he approaches strangers or the way he approaches scenes. And just being able to learn from somebody else has been so rewarding to me. Like, it's been amazing.
It's called Photographers Photographed.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Man, I think that idea of capturing others while they're doing what they love, because they don't have any idea, you can see the passion and the emotion that they carry. That's so cool. I don't get to shoot with a lot of people here. I'm mainly a solo shooter.
Yeah.
Or I go out with my wife and we argue about stuff because she's like, you should take this photo. And then I say, well, if you got out of my way, I would. She's got an amazing artistic eye. Like she knows how I shoot and she always does it. She's like, oh, what about this? And then she'll turn around and I'm already looking at it through the viewfinder and her head's right in the way. And I'm like, God, you got to move so I can take it. And she's like, oh, okay. But it happens over and over and over again. Or we'll watch videos in the morning, of legends. Like we watched a video of Mark Fernley and she was pulling out like, I love how he gets everybody lined up in the light and the shadow. And it's just neat to see. And when I have issues and I'm not functioning how I should, and I'm not sure about things, I always ask her, and I get frustrated sometimes with her answers because they're usually right.
That's the worst.
But I value that so much, having that. Like with the book, I was like, oh, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do, one photo a week is going to go into the book, and it's not going to really be, or it's going to be themed. The whole book's going to be themed. It's going to be 52 photos themed. And she's like, but that's not how you shoot photos. You shoot everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. So I'm trying to pigeonhole myself before I even start.
Yeah.
So, you know, just those little things, those little tidbits of information that really, really help all of us.
Yeah. Somebody else gets to see how you live and they have their perspective on you.
Exactly, man. Any other projects you're working on? Any places you're going to be shooting that people can come out and see Shawn shoot skateboarders? Or
Oh man, I guess no like real projects right now. I've been thinking about what I want to do next, and I don't know. I'm waiting to be super inspired by something, but yeah, I spend a lot of time at Tompkins Square Park. If anybody wants to come out and talk about photography or cameras, I could talk all day.
well, you know, if I make it out there some point in the next year or two, we should set up like a photo walk. We should get a whole bunch of people together and just, you know, invite people and just get out and talk. And then maybe at the end, we'll just all sit down and we'll do like an on the spot podcast.
Maybe we should bring Rob in to the conversation from the Leica store and see if he wants to host us.
Right. And just see what's happening. Right. Just see if we can, because I want to hear everybody's perspective. I love hearing stories and like hearing your story and how you found it and how skateboarding, it's because your brother tried to kickflip your toy and messed it up. And you were like, that was sick. Right. And me like finding a skateboard and just learning to coast, but then watching this fully fluid guy just pop this beautiful ollie over a stair gap. And I was hooked. I had to figure it out. And then I became the ollie guy.
Yeah.
So I love hearing how things progress and how they continue to grow in our lives. I mean, 50 years old, I hear skateboard wheels on the street and I'm looking around.
I'm like a kid with a fire engine or something. I run to the window and I'm like, who's skating? Who's going past our house?
That's awesome.
We live like 2 blocks from a skate park. So I'm like, if I need a place to go, I'll just like head out and skate over to the skate park and see who's up over there. And yeah, I love it. It's a nice outlet.
Dude, that's incredible. I don't have, my skateboard park's not far, just up the street, but it's got a decent street section, but it has this beautiful, like bold corner with the spine. And it's just, there's so many variations I did as a younger person there.
Yeah.
I have 2 things I want to do there again at 50. I want to Smith grind the whole corner. I love Smith grinds. I love the feeling of them.
They're beautiful.
And then I want to do on the spine, I want to do a Smith over feeble to fakie.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know what? I know I can do it. I've done it. I just have to get myself, you know, right now I'm battling really, really bad knee and ankle and hip issues.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the fact that because I can't really push myself, I gained weight really quickly. But, you know, that's another journey. It's just part of who I am. That's part of my story.
That's true.
What can I do? Like, I can sit here and be like, oh man, I'm so big, I'm never going to do anything. Or I can try to figure out a solution.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now. And it's hard to get started. It's hard to make that first step.
You're going to get that skateboard out and you're going to be like, oh man, why did I ever stop this?
I know. And it's built in the basement right now. But I'm going to start commuting by bicycle to work. It's like 6 mile round trip. So it's not super far, but just to start getting the heart rate going again and get the sweat on where it's low impact on my injuries. And then we'll see what happens because I want to skate again. I don't have to do flip tricks. I don't have anything to prove anymore.
Yeah. I don't do a lot. I was at the skate park the other day and went to do an ollie and, I landed on like a rock or something. Something happened where like I fell and oh my God, I hit the ground so hard. And there was this guy playing basketball behind me and I hit the ground and all I heard was, oh my God. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah. I credit skateboarding. Like I used to ride my bike religiously and there's always times you do something, you get flipped off, and that ability to have instant reaction to flip and roll into something instead of sliding. So skateboarding, I've credited for so many times saving me from serious injuries. Yeah. But now, like, we used to have this 12 set that you would hit it at full speed, and you pop this big ollie down this 12 set, and it just felt so good, right? And now, like, I think about stuff like that, and my whole body just shuts down.
Like, right? I can't do that.
It's like, no. Or we had another stair set where I used to love to do just huge ollie out and then late backside 180. So just bone the board and then at the last second just flip it around before I land. And I remember hitting the pavement 50 times in one day, just smashing myself and getting up and doing it again.
Yeah.
Dude, now I walk and I trip down the stair and I'm like, boom. And I'm like, I'm hurt for a week. Oh man, dude, this has been great, dude. Thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, dude. I feel the same. I look forward to seeing you keep progressing as a photographer, and then getting to know you more as a friend, and working on some projects and doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready to come out here and we can shoot some skating.
Yes, sir.
We also got a couple Leicas around here, so I'll set you up with the Leica and a wide angle.
Nice.
I can set you up with the fisheye.
Oh man, that's incredible. I just love the fact you shoot the Leica, but you have a story to why you have a Leica and a meaning to your first Leica. Like, I have a story similar with my grandpa. I used to race BMX in the 80s. It was my passion. Like, I loved it. And he took me into the bike shop once because I needed new race gloves. And my bike was like chrome with, like, back in the 80s, it was all neons, right? So pinks and greens. So I wanted these gloves from JT Racing that matched the color of my bike. And I walked in and I was like, all right, here they are, Grandpa. Awesome. Thank you so much. And he's like, I don't like those ones. I like those ones that are black and gold. And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't match my bike.
Yeah.
And he's like, but look at that jersey over there. We can get that one too. It matches the gloves. And I'm like, but I ride a Diamondback, not a PK Ripper. And then he goes, well, you should turn around because there's your new race bike. And he had bought me a PK Ripper.
Whoa.
And it was like, I don't know, like 12 or $1,300 in the 80s.
Yeah.
And it was black and gold, full build, like 3-piece cranks, like the works, like the best. And I was like, whoa, what did you do that for? He's like, I can't take it with me.
Yeah.
But you have such a love for it that I thought I'd help you and upgrade you. And he did that for me for everything in life when he was around. And so that's the same thing. Like, we have a BMX track up the street. Like, they have the national championships going on this weekend. But I see kids on those bikes and I remember that feeling. I remember riding that bike. I remember riding my Diamondback, and it's a really cool way to remember our grandparents.
I actually just got a BMX bike a couple days ago.
Oh, nice.
I've been riding a fixed gear for the last couple weeks and I keep blowing out the rear tire on these terrible streets out here.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, let me just see how a BMX bike rides. So I rode a BMX bike from my house to Williamsburg yesterday and got rained on, but I was like cheesing again. It was like skating again. I was like, this is amazing. Yeah,
I remember you posted something. You bought it fixed gear from your landlord or something.
Oh yeah, my Super had somebody had left it. Yeah, and she was like, do you want this? I'm going to throw it away. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take a free bike.
Yeah.
So they fixed it up. Yeah.
Nice, man. What kind of BMX did you get?
I don't know. It is a beat up, like, the guy sold it to me for like $50. He had it for like 5 or 6 years and rode it religiously. And he's like, I just bought a new bike, so I'm going to get rid of this one. Yeah, there's like no badging on it anywhere. It's got scratches and rust. But I was like, being in New York, I was like, I love stuff that tells a story. Like, my Leica's all chromed out or brassed out, I guess. Like, so I like that stuff where you can like tell that it's been used. And this bike has been used.
That's awesome. I used to commute on a BMX I worked in the bicycle industry for quite a few years. And I used to commute on a BMX. That was my everyday to work because I didn't have to worry about my fixed gear and being exhausted riding to work and realizing I don't have brakes at the most inopportune moment.
Yeah.
And then trying to skid to a stop and not happening. So I used to just rock a BMX. I ran a 28.9 gear ratio. So I had a little bit bigger gear ratio, had a blast. We used to manual down the overpass by the shop. And you could just get going so quick, and it's so many good memories. So now I want to get like a 26-inch BMX.
Yeah, a little
just
bit
like
bigger.
a cruiser.
Yeah.
I'd love to ride that instead of the bike that I currently have, which is a piece of junk. Which is weird for me because I worked in the industry for so long, but when I had to buy a bike, I'm like, they're how much?
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at like there's like kink bikes, Sunday bikes, We the People bikes, and like I'm looking at them and like $1,400. Like this thing is probably gonna get sent off a stair set. I mean, not by me. Like I'm not gonna do that, but somebody else is. Like,
Yeah, right. But the coolest part is now that bike has a story, right? So when
yeah,
people ask, it has a story, it has a meaning, it has a purpose, and the fact that it didn't just get thrown away, it's being
yeah,
reused by someone is even cooler.
yeah. I love it. It's a neat little bike, and then I can lock it up outside and not feel like somebody's gonna steal it. Or if they do, then I'm not like out.
Yeah,
$1,400.
right. Well, Shawn, where's the best place for people to find you?
Oh man, I am on all social media is Shawn P. Bruce. And my website's Shawn P. Bruce as well. So yeah, I'm pretty active on Instagram, Glass, if anybody goes on there, Threads, of course. Oh man. Yeah, just about everywhere. I've got a YouTube channel, so I make videos on YouTube as well. So
Nice. Any parting words? Any tidbits of wisdom that you've learned over the years of shooting that you can pass on to the listeners?
oh man, I feel like I'm on the spot here. I don't know. I guess just to like if you're thinking about doing the project, like just go pursue it. Like don't let your don't let your brain stop you. Like if you let yourself get talked out of it, you're not going to start it. So just throw yourself in there.
Facts. I appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on. I look forward to continue watching you grow as a photographer.
Thank you.
Staying in touch. We got some ideas. So there's some things happening. So I think it's going to be pretty neat.
Cool. I'm excited. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for putting me on here.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Life of Phys Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed our show, and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you content and the stories of our incredible guests. And remember to stay connected with us on all social media platforms. It's at LIFE_OF_PHYS or on the internet at www.lifeofphys.com. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day.